I never imagined I'd have to face her at my father's will reading. You'd think losing a parent would be the worst part of your year, but no. It was seeing my ex-husband walk into the attorney's office, hand in hand with his new wife, as if they belonged there. Like they earned a seat at my family's table. My name is Allison Grant. I'm 38 years old, and I was married to Owen for 11 years. We built a life together, or so I thought. Until 2 years ago, when I caught him cheating with his paralegal. That paralegal is now Mrs. Samantha Grant. And apparently, she thinks she's entitled to my dead father's legacy. My dad, Richard Grant, passed away suddenly. Stroke. No warnings, no goodbyes. He was my rock. A retired engineer, practical and private. After Mom passed, he lived simply, rarely traveled, didn't date, and spent his time restoring classic radios in the garage. I was his only child. We were close. Closer after my divorce. He didn't say much, but I always knew he never liked Owen. Something about his smile. Dad would mumble. It says too much, while meaning nothing. So when Dad passed, I assumed everything would go directly to me. We talked about it. He even told me he was updating the paperwork after my divorce. He wanted to make sure there were no leaks. But grief makes you careless. I didn't ask for copies. I didn't press. I trusted that his lawyer, Mr. Carlton, would handle everything as Dad wanted. That's why I was caught off guard when Owen and Samantha showed up for the reading of the will. Carlton's office was tense the moment they walked in. Samantha wore an off-white blazer like it was her personal coronation. Owen stood behind her like a smug backup dancer. "Sorry we're late," Samantha said, flashing me a smile that made my skin crawl. "We had brunch. Traffic was murder." "Brunch? At my father's will reading?" Owen nodded at me. No apology. No sympathy. Just the silent arrogance of a man who still thought he had influence in my world. Carlton looked at them like they'd dragged mud into a sacred space. "We didn't invite guests," he said plainly. Samantha placed a manicured hand on Owen's arm. "Well, technically, I'm his wife, which makes me family. And Owen was married to Allison for over a decade, so any estate decisions that affect her, affect him too. We're here in good faith." Carlton's brow lifted. "That's a very generous interpretation of family, Mrs. Grant." Owen tried to sound diplomatic. "We just want to ensure fairness." Fairness? After the affair? After the public humiliation? I felt my stomach knot, but I stayed silent. Carlton gave me a small glance. A quiet signal. "Wait." He shuffled the papers on the table. "Let's begin." Dad's will was short. To the point. Just like him. There were a few bequests to distant cousins, some donations to the local VFW, and then the remainder of my estate, including my home, vehicle, personal savings, and all intellectual property, is to be transferred solely to my daughter, Allison Marie Grant. Samantha scoffed. "That can't be everything." Carlton didn't even look at her. "It is." "But the house. Owen helped fix the plumbing when you two were married. Surely there's shared value there." Carlton finally met her gaze. "The house was purchased before the marriage. It's not community property." "And what about the workshop?" she continued, flustered. "There were antique electronics, rare items." Carlton raised a hand. "All of which are now owned by Ms. Grant." Samantha glanced at Owen. He looked confused, like he thought there'd be more. Like maybe my father left a trust, or a clause, or some sentimental olive branch. But no. Just my name. No strings. When the meeting wrapped, Samantha stood and adjusted her blazer like she'd been insulted. "You know," she said to me, her voice sugar-slick, "it's a shame your father wasn't more inclusive. Families grow. He should have made room." I stood slowly, holding my copy of the will to my chest. "My father wasn't in the habit of rewarding betrayal," I said softly. "You married into this name. I was born into it." Her eyes narrowed. I walked past them and didn't look back. That night, I sat in Dad's house, my house now, and opened the bottom drawer of his workshop cabinet. I hadn't gone through it since the funeral. Inside, beneath old receipts and wires, was a thin envelope. My name written on the front, in his tight, slanted handwriting. I stared at it for a long time before I opened it. Inside was a single sentence. If they ever come for what isn't theirs, give Carlton the green file. I stood up so fast the chair hit the wall, because I knew what green file he meant. It was the locked cabinet in his closet, the one I was never allowed to open, the one he said only mattered if something went very wrong. Something just had. And tomorrow, Samantha and Owen were going to learn the hard way that my father didn't just plan ahead, he planned everything. I don't sleep that night. I sit cross-legged on my father's bedroom floor, staring at the green filing cabinet. It hums in my memory, a constant fixture of my childhood. Off limits. Locked. Untouchable. The one place in this house even I wasn't allowed to explore. And now, suddenly, I hold the key. Dad left it taped beneath the bottom drawer in the workshop, just like he said he would, if anything ever went wrong. That alone sends a chill down my spine. He anticipated this. He knew they'd try something. I slipped the key into the rusted lock, and hear a click. Inside, everything is neatly labeled. Of course it is. My father was the type to label light switches in a single-bedroom house. But one tab stands out. SG and OG. Confidential. Samantha Grant and Owen Grant. I pull the folder out with shaking hands. The paper is thick. Legal quality. And every page is damning. The first few documents are copies of emails between Samantha and a man named Vincent Kellers. He's listed as a private asset consultant. Their messages go back to before my divorce, while she was still working under Owen. At first, it looks like a simple consulting conversation. But then it changes. They talk about liquidation plans, offshore accounts, and estate positioning. I recognize dates, days when Owen and I were still married, when we were supposedly working on our future. Then there's a breakdown of Owen's finances. Or rather, what Owen hid from me during our divorce. There's an entire trust account under his name in the Cayman Islands. A trust that mysteriously tripled right after Dad's heart attack 2 years ago, the first one. I sit back on the carpet, numb. They didn't just cheat. They planned to bleed me dry. And they were already positioning themselves to benefit from my family's estate before the ink on the divorce was even dry. But that's not the end. Tucked in the back of the folder is a letter. Addressed to Carlton. In Dad's handwriting. If Samantha and Owen Grant ever attempt to claim any part of my estate, this folder contains evidence of marital fraud, concealed financial assets, and premeditated asset manipulation. You have my full permission to initiate a counterclaim and notify the IRS. Signed, Richard D. Grant. My father didn't just protect his assets. He built a grenade. I don't even wait for morning. I send Carlton a photo of the letter and call him the moment the sun peaks over the horizon. He picks up on the first ring. I was hoping you'd find it, he says without even a hello. I knew he gave you the key. Carlton is old school. The kind of lawyer who believes in war only when absolutely necessary, but when it is, he shows no mercy. I want to use it, I say. My voice doesn't shake. All of it. There's a pause. Then good. I already filed the estate with a limited contest clause. This gives us cause to nullify any future claims. But with this, we can go further. What do you mean? We can file a fraud alert on Owen's financials. We can alert the IRS and force a forensic audit. We can subpoena Samantha's email history and possibly even press charges for asset manipulation. My breath catches. It'll ruin them. It'll protect you. That's all I need to hear. Carlton tells me not to engage them directly. Let the law do the heavy lifting, he says. But I have other plans. Because Samantha just posted a photo on social media, a grief brunch, she calls it. She's sitting on the terrace of some overpriced restaurant, toasting champagne in a black designer dress with the caption, R.I.P. Richard. You raised a strong daughter. She'll share like a strong woman should. I see red. So, I post something too. It's a photo of the green file, just a corner of it, just enough to see the names SG and OG typed on top. And the caption? You shouldn't toast what was never yours. #trust issues. It explodes in minutes. Friends, old coworkers, even a few of Owen's extended family, they comment, they DM, they call me. Some to ask questions, some just to say they're finally glad someone's exposing the truth. I get a call from Owen that night. I don't answer. Then a text. Allison, can we talk? You don't need to do this. Then another from Samantha. This is embarrassing for everyone. We're family. Please stop. Family? They have some nerve. 2 days later, Carlton forwards me a confirmation. He's filed for injunctive protection on the estate and requested fraud investigation through IRS counsel. The government clock starts ticking. And I start packing. Because now, I'm going to stay in my father's house, no, my house, while they try to figure out just how much trouble they're really in. The day after the filing, Samantha shows up at my doorstep. She knocks like she owns the place. I don't open the door fully, just enough for her to see that I'm calm, that I'm home. She's not wearing her brunch blazer today, just a sweater and forced humility. Allison, she begins, I think we got off on the wrong foot. Which one? The one you stepped on my marriage with, or the one you used to walk into my father's while reading? Her smile twitches. I just think if we talk, maybe we can come to a reasonable arrangement. Oh, I think we will, I say. But that arrangement will be drawn up by my lawyer and delivered by court order. Her eyes go wide. Wait, what? I know about the offshore trust. I continue. And the fake appraisal you filed when Owen sold our second car to cover legal fees. She stammers. That wasn't. Owen handled that. I'm sure he did. I close the door.
Gently.
Because the louder crash is coming, and it won't be mine. The day the IRS letter arrives, I light a candle on the front porch. It's something my father used to do during storm season, a quiet tradition, a signal of power, even when the lights went out. Let them know you're still here. He'd say, even if the power lines were down and the world had gone dark. Well, the storm's here now. But I'm still standing. Carlton calls right after I open the envelope. They've acknowledged the claim, he says, his voice crisp. The IRS has officially opened a preliminary investigation into both Owen and Samantha's declared income and offshore assets. And the estate? Protected. Their claims are frozen until further notice. I don't cry. Not yet. I think I used up all my tears the day Owen moved out without looking back, the day he left a single post-it on the counter that said, "You'll land on your feet. You always do." Like this was some kind of favor. Like I was supposed to thank him for not burning the house down on his way out. That was 2 years ago. Now he's burning all on his own, and I'm just watching from the porch. The next week unfolds like something out of a Courtroom series. Carlton files a motion to introduce the green file as evidence in the estate proceedings. We schedule a hearing, and I'm required to attend, but not alone. Carlton walks beside me into the courthouse like we're both carrying armor. Samantha and Owen sit at the front, perfectly coordinated in their navy blue. Their lawyer, someone I've never met, tries to look unbothered, but his eyes keep darting toward the folder in Carlton's hands. The judge calls us forward. Samantha leans toward me and whispers, "There's still time to settle privately, you know." I don't look at her. I just smile and say softly, "You should have said that before the brunch post." Carlton clears his throat and addresses the judge. "Your Honor, we are submitting documented evidence of concealed financial assets, premeditated estate manipulation, and marital fraud with direct implications on the plaintiff's claim to Mr. Richard Grant's estate." He places the folder down like it weighs 1,000 pounds. I swear I hear Samantha gasp. The judge reads in silence. Each page turns like a countdown. When she finally looks up, her eyes narrow at Owen. "Mr. Grant," she says, "were you aware that your financial disclosures during your divorce failed to include a trust account in the Cayman Islands?" Owen blinks.
Hard.
I didn't think it was relevant. Didn't think it was relevant? Carlton interrupts, voice sharp. You didn't think a $1.2 million offshore trust had any bearing on spousal division of assets? Samantha clutches his arm. Her jaw is clenched so tightly, I think she might crack her molars. The judge holds up a hand. "I'm placing a freeze on all distributions from the estate until this is resolved. And I'm recommending this file be forwarded to Federal Financial Investigation for review. Carlton nods. We're already in contact. That's the moment Samantha finally breaks. I didn't know about the trust, she blurts out. I didn't. Owen told me everything was clean. Owen turns toward her. You said we could move things around. You wanted that damn condo. Their lawyer buries his face in his hands. I sit quietly, like a candle in the storm. Outside the courthouse, the press is minimal, but there's press. Apparently, a well-known business columnist has picked up the case, calling it a perfect example of asset laundering through second marriages. I don't speak to the reporter directly, but I do give them permission to cite a single sentence. Some people marry for love. Some marry for access. But karma doesn't care about your intentions. That quote goes viral within 24 hours. So do photos of Samantha crying on the steps of her former office. Apparently, the company she worked for put her on extended leave pending outcome of the investigation. And Owen? His name disappears from the real estate firm's team page overnight. I wish I could say I feel triumphant. But honestly, I feel free. I go home and start organizing my father's things, not out of grief anymore, but out of peace. I donate half of his old suits to the veteran shelter, and I keep just one. The gray one with the navy lining. The one he wore to my wedding. The one he called his shield. I hang it in the closet beside my own clothes. And then I make a new key. Not for a filing cabinet this time, but for a new lock on the front door. That night, Carlton calls again. They've made an offer, he says. I pause. How big? They're offering to drop all claims if you agree not to pursue charges. I laugh. They think they can ask for mercy after 2 years of scheming? They're desperate, Carlton says. And they know we've got them. You want to shut this down, take the win, and move on. This is your shot. I'm silent for a long time. Then I ask, can I respond in writing? Of course. So I write them a letter. It's only 2 sentences long. You demanded a share of something that was never yours. I hope you enjoy sharing the consequences. I sign it with a flourish. And I never hear from them again. After everything, the court dates, the legal threats, the social media attacks, silence feels like a luxury. A heavy, golden silence. For the first time in what feels like years, my phone isn't buzzing with Owen's nonsense or Samantha's sugar-coated venom. No one's asking for a reasonable compromise. No one's inviting me to pretend we're still family. They're gone. Or maybe they were never really there. I light another candle that night, just like I did after the IRS letter. This time, I set it by the window of my father's study, the one with the creaky floorboard and the faded chessboard still set up like he left it. His chair is still angled slightly toward the sunrise. He always said morning light made everything look honest. I sit in it now, knees tucked beneath me, the candle casting a flicker across the old family portrait on the wall. The one with all 4 of us. Dad, Mom, me, and Owen. I used to stare at this picture and wonder why I always felt out of place. Now I just see it for what it is, a snapshot of what they wanted the world to see. Not the truth. The truth is, I was the kid who stayed late at the hospital with Dad when he had his stroke. I was the one who handled the bills when Mom forgot. I was the one who carried them while Owen coasted. And still, they left everything to him. You understand, sweetheart, my mother had said once, as if I was a child. Boys carry the name. He's the future.
No, Mom.
He was the future you imagined. And you were wrong. Now, I'm building my own. The next week, Carlton and I meet in his office to finalize the estate restructuring. The freeze is still in place on Owen and Samantha's assets, but my father's estate is now solely in my name. It feels surreal, like holding a sword you never meant to lift but now can't imagine letting go of. Are you sure you want to keep the foundation running? Carlton asks, tapping the folder in front of him. You could dissolve it, take the assets directly. No one would blame you. I shake my head.
No.
My father started it to help kids who aged out of foster care. He was one of them. It's the one thing he did right without strings attached. Carlton nods. Then we'll move forward. As I leave, he stops me at the door. Allison, he says gently. You should know something. That final letter your father left you? The one we found in the green folder? I turned slowly. What about it? It wasn't just a note. He updated the will 2 weeks before his death, gave you full discretion to override any prior allocation of assets if you deemed it necessary.
My mouth goes dry.
He did what? He trusted you.
Deeply.
Enough to give you the power to fix what he couldn't. I leave his office holding that thought like it's a compass. A piece of the man I missed, even after everything. I drive out to the cliffs that evening, the ones overlooking the lake where my father used to take me fishing when I was little. The water is still. Quiet. I park the car and walk out to the edge. And I finally speak out loud. I forgive you, I whisper. But I won't forget. Not the pain. Not the silence. Not the fight I had to have without you. The wind stirs, gentle and cold. Then I open my coat pocket and pull out the final letter again. The handwriting is clean, steadier than I remember. He wrote, I didn't always know how to show you, but I saw what you did. Every time. If Owen asks questions, let him. You don't owe him the answers, just the truth. I fold it carefully and tuck it into my journal. Back home, I begin something new. I open the Foundation's dusty old email account and start drafting a proposal, a rebranding effort that turns the Grant Outreach Trust into something more modern. I rename it the Everlight Fund. A nod to the candle. A nod to the quiet strength that survives even in the dark. I bring in a small team, a lawyer, a social worker, a financial planner. All women. All fighters in their own right. Within a month, we launch a scholarship program for young women transitioning out of group homes. Our tagline is simple. You are not a leftover. You are the beginning. We get our first major donor after a piece runs in the local paper titled, From Disowned to Director, One Woman's Battle for Her Father's Legacy. I didn't ask them to publish it. A journalist who'd followed the court proceedings just showed up one day and asked if I'd talk.
So I did.
I told them everything. Not out of revenge, but out of clarity. Out of healing. Samantha, predictably, posts a passive-aggressive Instagram story the next day. Funny how some people will do anything for attention. I don't respond. I don't block her either. I just let her watch. Let her see what real rebuilding looks like. Let her scroll through the photos of the young women I've met, the lives we've touched, the smiles that look nothing like pity and everything like purpose. Let her see that I don't need their last name. I'm making my own. And when Carlton calls to tell me that Samantha and Owen have filed for bankruptcy and that their offshore trust is being absorbed by the government, I only say one thing. Let them land on their feet. Or not. That's not my story anymore. I hang up. And for the first time in a long time, I don't feel the urge to light a candle. Because the storm is over. And I am the light now. It's strange how peace doesn't make a sound. You just notice one day that the ringing in your chest is gone. That you're breathing deeper. That you can sit with yourself in a room and not flinch when a memory knocks on the door. That's where I am now. But that doesn't mean the story is over. Because power has a way of drawing attention, and mine is starting to get noticed. I'm sitting in my modest home office, a far cry from the penthouse Owen once flaunted, when the email pings in. It's from a name I haven't heard in years. Vanessa Moore, Owen's ex-girlfriend. The one before Samantha. The subject line. They did it to me too. My hand hovers over the mouse. Part of me wants to ignore it, but I click. Her message is short. Just 3 lines. I've been following your story. I stayed quiet when Samantha pushed me out, but I see now I wasn't alone. There's something you need to know about what they planned even before your father passed. If you're willing to talk. I stare at the screen, heart pounding, because deep down I always knew there was more to the story. That Samantha didn't just show up out of nowhere. That Owen didn't turn greedy overnight. They schemed this. They built it. And I let myself believe it was just a series of unfortunate events, that it was business, not betrayal.
But now?
Now I want every truth. Even the ones that burn. We meet in a small coffee shop on the west side of town. Vanessa looks older, but there's a fire behind her eyes I recognize. It's the same one I saw in the mirror when I first read that IRS letter. The look of someone who has been quiet too long. She slides a folder across the table. These are old texts, screenshots, emails. Owen used to brag about getting your father's signature while he was on meds. I didn't think much of it back then. I was stupid. I open the folder. One screenshot hits like a punch to the ribs. Owen, don't worry. Once the new will is signed, I'll ease out. Dad's got no clue what he's even signing anymore. Samantha. Perfect. Just keep her distracted with the audit scare. I'll handle the rest. My stomach turns. The IRS letter, the lawyer delays, the conveniently timed panic about unpaid estate taxes. It wasn't just incompetence. It was manipulation. A staged downfall. And I walked right into it. I look up at Vanessa, my throat tight. Why now?
She sighs.
Because I wanted to believe Owen loved me. That Samantha was just ambitious. But watching her fight, what you built from the ashes, I realize silence makes me their accomplice. I nod slowly. You're not. Not anymore. We shake hands before parting, and I take the folder straight to Carlton. His jaw tightens as he reads through the messages. This changes everything, he says. Statute of limitations? I ask. Not for fraud tied to estate misrepresentation. And not when it involves elder coercion. Especially if your father had a known medical condition at the time. My pulse quickens. You mean we could reverse the original will completely? Carlton nods. And possibly press charges. For the first time in this entire fight, I'm not just defending myself. I'm holding a weapon that could dismantle their lies. But strangely, I hesitate. Not because they don't deserve it, but because I've already moved forward. I've already reclaimed my name, built something bigger than their greed. Is dragging them through court for years worth the emotional weight? Carlton watches me wrestle with it, then says, you don't have to go to war. But having the sword doesn't mean you're weak if you sheath it. It means you choose. I thank him and leave with the folder still sealed tight in my bag. That night, I light no candles. Instead, I write. I write a personal essay, not for court, not for revenge, but for me. The title is simple. The estate they couldn't steal. I pour it all out. The betrayal. The audit. Samantha's venom. Owen's smug betrayal. The long nights. The final letter. The power of choosing silence or speaking. And in the end, I write this. They tried to take the money. Then the legacy. Then my sanity. But what they never expected was that I would build something better, not in spite of them, but because of them. They didn't destroy me. They revealed me. The next morning, I send it to a small independent magazine that focuses on women's voices and legacy building. They publish it 3 days later. Within a week, it's viral. People, mostly women, start messaging me. Their own stories. Their own grief. Their own version of Samantha and Owen. One message stands out. You made me want to open my mother's old recipe box again. I thought I was done with everything she left. But your words made me realize, maybe she left me more than just pain. That's when it hits me. The revenge already happened. Not in courtrooms or headlines, but in whispers that turned into voices. In women who stopped hiding. In daughters who stopped apologizing. Samantha and Owen can keep what's left of their name. I have a new one now. In a quiet ceremony at City Hall, I legally change my last name, not back to my married name, and not the one my parents gave me. I take my grandmother's name, a woman who raised me with wisdom when no one else was watching. I become Allison Monroe. Simple. Strong. Mine. That week, I get an email from a production company asking if I'd be open to developing my story into a short film for a women's empowerment festival. I laugh out loud. Who would have thought? The girl who used to be scared of filing taxes. Now sitting on a panel about legacy, betrayal, and becoming your own anchor. I say yes. Not because I want the spotlight, but because there's someone else out there, maybe a daughter, maybe a widow, maybe a student with nothing but a quiet voice and a broken will, who needs to know she's not alone, who needs to know inheritance doesn't make you worthy. You already are. I thought I was done with them. With Owen. With Samantha. With all of it. But grief has a strange way of echoing back into your life just when you think you've shut the door. And closure? It rarely knocks gently. It's been 4 months since the essay went viral. 2 months since I legally changed my name. 1 month since the short film premiered at the festival. I'm sitting in a downtown cafe, sipping a warm chai and answering emails, when a man in a dark gray blazer walks in. He looks around until his eyes land on me. "Allison Monroe?" he asks carefully. I nod, tensing. "Yes?" He slides into the chair across from me and sets a business card on the table. Michael Crane, probate investigator. My heart skips. "I'm sorry, what's this about?"
He leans in.
"I know this is abrupt, but I've been assigned to conduct a third-party inquiry into the execution of your father's will." I stare at him. "Is this because of the Carlton filing?" "No," he replies. "Actually, it's because Samantha filed a claim." My stomach flips. "She's suing?" I ask. He shakes his head. "She's claiming emotional damages. She says your public statements defamed her and caused significant personal harm." Of course she is. The moment she couldn't control the narrative, she tried to weaponize it. Again. She voluntarily inserted herself into the story. I say slowly. She forged paperwork. She manipulated an elderly man with early signs of cognitive decline. And now she's what? Upset that people know. She says there's no proof, he says. And the burden of truth is on you. I feel a burn rise in my chest. But this time, it isn't fear. It's fury, tempered and still. I have screenshots, emails, witness statements. I reply calmly. "You want receipts?" I carry them. Crane nods. "I believe you. I'm not here to intimidate. I'm here to verify. Because if there's enough evidence, Samantha's not going to get what she wants. In fact, she might be facing charges of her own." For a second, I feel the chill of all those nights spent wondering if I was crazy, if I made it up, if I deserved what happened. Now here's a stranger in a blazer telling me, no, confirming that I wasn't just betrayed. I was targeted. "I'll cooperate fully," I tell him. "You'll have everything you need." We part ways. I go home. I open my safe. And for the first time, I bring out the letter again. My father's final letter. The one I haven't read aloud since the day I found it. It still smells faintly like cedarwood and thyme, like the inside of his old office drawers. I open it slowly. "Ollie, I'm sorry if I made you feel unseen. I know I didn't say it enough. You were the one who always showed up. The one who stayed. I saw how much you gave and how little you asked in return. They may come for what I left behind. But what I left for you is untouchable. Strength. Grace. Fire. Use it how you choose. I love you, Dad." I sit on the edge of my bed and cry. Not because I'm sad. Because for the first time, I feel completely validated. Later that week, I'm called in for a private deposition. To my surprise, Samantha is there. She walks in like she owns the air. Tight dress, high heels, that smug little twist in her mouth I remember from the last time I saw her, when she called me emotional for not giving her half of my father's life work. She doesn't look at me, but I feel her sizing me up. I don't flinch. The judge is calm, but firm. "Miss Monroe, you may begin." I reach into my bag and pull out a neatly arranged folder. Inside, Vanessa's screenshots, Carlton's notarized records, Owen's text messages, financial records with suspicious transfers from my father's account to an LLC Samantha created just days after his hospitalization. Every single page is methodically placed. Samantha starts squirming. And then I do the unexpected. I take out my father's letter and read it aloud. Her eyes narrow. She thinks it's sentimental. She thinks it's weak. But I can see the moment it lands. "They may come for what I left behind. But what I left for you is untouchable." The room is silent. When I finish, the judge leans back. "Thank you, Miss Monroe. We'll take a brief recess before moving forward with sanctions." Samantha shoots to her feet. "You can't do this. You're making me out to be a monster." The judge lifts a brow. No one said monster, ma'am. But the evidence speaks volumes. You'll need to speak to your attorney.
She turns to me.
You ruined everything. I stand slowly, meeting her eyes. No, I say. You did that. I just stopped letting you lie about it. She storms out. And just like that, the room is quiet again. Not with tension. Not with pain. But with resolution. After the deposition, Carlton calls me. She'll likely settle. Quietly. The court's not looking favorably on her behavior. I exhale. And Owen? Radio silence. Probably hiding behind her. Typical. We both laugh. It's not bitterness anymore. It's release. That weekend, I go to the community garden I helped fund using a portion of my inheritance. There are kids playing. An older woman teaching a teenager how to plant basil. The city installed a plaque last week. In honor of legacy reclaimed, donated by Allison Monroe. I run my fingers over the words and smile. This is the kind of will no one can forge. This is what my father meant. People think the courtroom is where the story ends. The judge slams the gavel, and justice is served like a final meal. But real endings don't arrive with a bang. They unravel, slowly, quietly. Sometimes you only realize it's over when the silence finally feels safe. It's been 3 weeks since the deposition. Samantha's legal team reached out with a non-apology and a tidy little settlement offer. She'd quietly drop the claim, retract all her statements, and in return, I wouldn't sue her for fraud. I didn't even hesitate. I accepted. Not for her sake, but for mine. Because dragging her through the mud would only get me dirtier. And I was done letting their mess stain my peace. Owen, as predicted, said nothing. Not a text. Not a call. Not even a vague Instagram post to play the victim. He vanished into her shadow again, just like he always did. But I no longer looked for him there. I had finally stopped grieving the man I thought he was. I'd started building something else. Something better. It began as an idea, a half-scrawled notebook entry during a midnight breakdown 6 months ago. What if we made a space for women who got erased? That idea became the Red Pen Project, a nonprofit dedicated to helping women contest unfair wills, fight coercive financial abuse, and preserve the legacies of parents who are manipulated, discredited, or exploited in their final years. We don't just provide legal assistance. We offer voice. Grief rewrites people. So we help women edit back in the truth. The launch party is tonight. I'm standing in front of a full-length mirror, wearing a deep emerald green dress my friend Mila insisted I borrow. My hair is curled just enough to look intentional, and my heels make me feel taller than any courtroom victory ever did. But the most important thing I wear is around my neck. It's a pendant, my father's cufflink, turned into a locket, with the last line of his letter etched inside. What I left for you is untouchable. The party is in the gallery space downtown. A restored brick building with soft lighting, warm wood floors, and art on every wall. Most of it created by women who've walked through fire and still painted the ashes. When I arrive, it's already buzzing. Lawyers, artists, donors, survivors. I spot Vanessa near the catering table talking to a group of women and laughing so hard, she doubles over. I breathe it in. This is what healing tastes like. Carlton finds me by the punch bowl. You clean up well, he grins, adjusting his crooked tie. You showed up, I tease. Of course. I had to see the woman who made Samantha Carlton tremble. I nudge him. Still bragging about that, huh? He holds up his drink. Forever. An hour in, I take the small stage we set up near the center of the gallery. The mic is warm in my hand. My fingers are shaking a little, not from fear, but from the sheer weight of the moment. I clear my throat. I wasn't supposed to inherit anything. I begin. Not the house. Not the account. Not the name. I was supposed to smile, sit down, and say thank you for the scraps. But something happened. The room is quiet. Listening. My father left me something more powerful than a deed or a check. He left me a final letter. And in that letter, he reminded me who I am. I pull the pendant from beneath my neckline and hold it up. He said, What I left for you is untouchable. And tonight I give that gift to you. Applause breaks out like thunder and swells like a wave. I exhale slowly. This is how the chapter closes, not with vengeance, but with voice. After the event, as I'm gathering my things, a young woman approaches me. She looks maybe 23, nervous, clutching her bag too tightly.
Hi, she says.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to say your story was mine. I tilt my head. My stepbrother tricked my dad into changing his will, she whispers. Said I was a waste. I tried to fight it, but no one believed me. I step closer. What's your name? Layla. I offer her a card. Come in Monday. Let's rewrite the ending. She blinks at me like she's been underwater this whole time and finally surfaced. She nods and walks away with her spine just a little straighter. Later that night, I sit on my balcony. The city lights glitter below, like promises I used to be afraid to make. I raise a glass, not of wine, but sparkling water. I'm sober now, too. Another silent decision I made one morning when I realized I wanted every next step to be intentional. I raise it to the sky. To every woman they tried to write out, I whisper. We're still here. And somewhere, I like to believe, my father hears it.